Hey, it's Nick. What you're about to watch is a recording from an event called The Exchange. This is a free event that is focused mostly on Tana, but it branches out into other technology as well. And like I said, it's free to attend. You just got to register and then show up. And even if you don't show up, if you register, you'll get a link to the video so that you can watch it later if you can't make it. I'm not always going to post these to this channel, but I thought this was a very interesting one. And I want to get some feedback on what you guys think of the conversation and what day you would like these to happen on as a regular occurrence. I don't know if Monday's the best time, you know? Also, yeah, check out the events page for strategic design. There's going to be more events coming in the future. And just as a quick introduction for this video that you're about to watch, two of the people that you're going to hear a lot from in this video are Lisa and Simon. Lisa is working on a couple extensions for Raycast and other things that you hear about in the video. Simon has recently released a project management template for Tana also, and he's got a lot of experience in doing freelance design work and a very interesting guy in general. Yeah, that's about everything for the video. I hope you enjoy it. Lots of great conversation happened. If you want to participate in these in the future, check out the events and come. Some other things. If you want to learn how to use Tana, if you want a comprehensive video course that's embedded in the experience with agents to help you learn, check out Tana 1. It's still on deep discount for the rest of April. Also, Tana Accelerator is where you get to interact with me, ask me questions. You get 4 one-hour sessions, and you get to learn in whatever direction you want to go. You lead me, and then I instruct you one-on-one. That is also on sale, especially if you purchase a package of Tana Accelerator with Tana 1 this month. Last couple things, as I mentioned in the video, there's the Perpetual Knowledge Machine and Tasker. Basic versions are out now. The pro versions I'm working on not as I speak, because obviously I'm recording the video, but I'm actively building those right now, and they will be released in the near future. So I recommend checking out the pre-sale, checking out the free versions, installing them, seeing what you think of them. Give me feedback. And if there's something missing, I may be able to include it in the first or second release of the pro versions. Yeah, that's it. Enjoy the video and talk later.
I think the only topic that I definitely have on the agenda for today is talking about kind of integrations in general, but Raycast in particular, because I saw Lisa was being really active in the Tana community lately, and she apparently developed at least one, maybe like a second extension for Raycast is on the way. And so, yeah, I invited her to talk. And I think that there's going to be a lot of possible discussion about what other things integrate well and not so well with Tana, and kind of what missing pieces are in Tana today that we'd like to see more builders or the Tana team themselves address, and kind of go from there. But yeah, Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me. I am brand new to Tana. I was a Roam user, and I kind of waited for Tana to release before I do the big we're live out of beta before I was willing to change my entire workflow. And then once I got in, I became completely obsessed, and my entire family wants me to stop talking about it, to be honest. I just will not shut up. So my wife's laughing. She's in the office with me. She's like, yeah, seriously, this is a real thing. But so anyway, I try to fix things myself. And I started diving in, and I saw that there were some real friction points for me. And one of them was the Tana Pace situation. So I said, well, how can I solve this for my workflows? And I started playing. It was like a dual experiment. I'm like, hey, I'm going to build something with Cursor AI, so that I don't have to take all the time to write the code from scratch, and because I knew I wouldn't get it done if I did that. So I went in and I just said, okay, well, if I just want to be able to copy from Raycast AI into Tana and keep some of the formatting, and that's Markdown. So it really struggles with a lot of the Markdown stuff. And I saw that there were some conversations in the community about people creating, Python scripts, and I sort of swiped little bits here and there and threw it together and bundled it in a Raycast extension. And then I started thinking, oh, what else can I do with this? So there's a new thing is that you can go, it isn't released yet. So the Raycast extension experience is a thing all by itself, but I've added some, just another feature where you can go to a YouTube page and use the extension to pull in all the meta content from the YouTube video. Because we've been having problems with Tana and pulling in the transcripts.
Yep.
So this removes that entirely and it pulls it in off the transcript from the browser instead of using AI to bring it in through Tana. So it's available. You can play with it if you know how to use development environments in Raycast. In the meantime, I've finally started talking to them. There's a lot of backlog because people are doing what I did and started using Cursor to create extensions, which causes all kinds of issues when you're doing PR management. And the spaghetti code that is coming to them is going to be fun to manage. So anyway, so we've been talking and finally there's some conversations and the review is in play. So as soon as I have something, I'll let you know.
Awesome. Simon, I know Simon loves Raycast.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I'm a big fan. My biggest gripe is it does have a quick add on Tana, but it doesn't do quite what I want the quick add to. I think me and Nick, we've spoken about this in the past. The quick add feature that's on Tana, I want that box to be in Raycast. It doesn't look like that, but I wish it did, because that's basically what I'm waiting for. Because then I can just do what I want to do in Tana from anywhere. I don't have to have it open up on the window. Granted, these days it's pretty much open 99.9% of the time anyway. So I'm starting to get to a point where it's like, does it really matter? Because I've just got a hotkey and it opens it, and then I can just do it straight away. But it would be nice to just have quick add on Raycast, and then I can just go straight into it that way. Here's a thought: is there a action that you can do on Raycast that will open up the quick add straight away in Tana?
Not that I've seen, but that's a great question because it is a browser feature.
Because you can
adds to feature list. Yeah, it's a good point.
Because they do have. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's a browser feature.
I'm
using it through the app, so I don't even consider the fact it's a browser feature, but it is a browser feature.
Yeah. So because there's a browser API in Raycast that you can hack. That's how I created the YouTube thing. So what it does is it looks for the most forefront YouTube video and sucks the information out of that. So I wonder if I could hack it. Interesting.
To open up the quick add when you go straight to Tana and opens the quick add. Because I know that I use the views. Do you use the layout views? That's so much fun.
Yeah, no.
You can create layout views now. So
in Raycast or in Tana?
In Raycast.
Okay.
In Tana as well, but in Raycast. So I can basically go in there now and go view Tana, and it will pull up my Tana, it will pull up my thingy for me. Like if I do a meeting, I've got the AI will pull up Google Meets. I can target which URL it will open up on the Arc. Annoyingly, it won't open multiple browser windows at the same time, only one on the program. But like that, and then so for work and stuff, I've music's all set up. I have to hit one button, and it will just set everything up in the places where I want it to be. So they're quite cool. Like the saved layouts you can do on there. It goes along with the window management you can do from it. But now I'm wondering if you can do it through that and then target the URL through the same sort of way. And you wouldn't be able to do it through the main way, but as you're saying, there might be a way to do it through the hack. Yeah,
let me see. Have you used the other Tana Raycast extension?
Yeah, it's all right. It's good. Like, there's nothing per se wrong with it, but it doesn't do what the quick add feature does.
Right.
I wanted to do, which is if I tag something and then I can add another line of context, and I don't just have to do one thing off and shot it and hope to God it worked, like, because that's what I feel like it is sometimes.
Yeah, even the one that I have, because the API is, it's going to throw everything in the inbox, and I don't like that. So mine just opens Tana up, and wherever my cursor is, I can paste it, which isn't my favorite, but it makes it usable.
It's interesting. I kind of much prefer using like some other way to get the API into it, or like some API element for it. Nick and I were talking about this the other day when we were kind of like working with, let's say I get feedback from a client and I want that to go in. I currently have 3 different ways that happens: is email, Slack, or WhatsApp, and I just want one way to get it in. At the moment, I'm having to dump everything in a Slack channel. AI does some bits and pieces and then dumps it into Tana. I could just as easily dump it into Tana, but it becomes, I don't know. I want it organized before it goes into Tana, not as it's going into Tana. I don't know. There's a conversation around workflow there, which is best. But yeah, Raycast standoff.
It's really cool. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to avoid with the first iteration was I didn't want to use AI. So it's using Python.
Right.
So
okay.
it's reformatting the date into the Tana date using Python rather than using AI to do it.
Okay.
So potentially you could do the same thing with tags. I'm just wondering if there's some sort of configuration that I could add for, like, let you as a user create some configurations to look for certain tags. And then if that tag exists, it formats it in the Tana paste format and then puts it in. So you're not using because I tried to create a couple different AI Tana paste options. I started there and it's just never consistent.
Interesting. Because
Right?
literally, yeah, but it's not bad at doing AI prompted JSON.
Right.
Which is why you've gone for Python instead.
Right. So because Python is just, it's a more consistent structure. So I sucked in, right, instead, but there would have to be some way for a user to configure it, because like my workflow is my workflow. Like Tana, that's what makes it so great. And so,
I mean,
insane to support, I would imagine.
Have you used the actual Tana Raycast one that's currently on Raycast?
Yeah, I don't use it very often. Like I started there.
Yeah, you have to like link up the IDs and stuff. It doesn't just search through your list of super tags, which is, again, I don't know, there's something lacking there.
Right. And the thing about that is that's in order to get something into a certain page, right? So you have to have the ID for the node. And that's why it's such a struggle. And that's why I only use it for the inbox, because I'm not going through all of that work. But if there was some sort of input box that said, these are my most used tags and this is how they're formatted, right? Like a to-do is all lowercase or whatever, however you do it. And then it could be on the hunt for those, and it could convert them to a Tana paste format that would then let you suck it in. At least then you'd get somewhere. None of this is, I want it to go away. I want to not have to use this, honestly.
Yeah, I know, I'm kind of with you on this one. It's like they're working on stuff at the moment, we know, because they've got an API team which is kind of come in to do some stuff, as far as I'm aware. So I'm just like, fingers crossed, hope to God, let's not have to deal with this. But, you know, there was a program called Routine and Routine.co. It was a similar sort of thing to Tana, where it's like a startup to-do list type feature. One thing they've done really nicely is they've integrated the calendar really nicely, but they've also got this console that, like Raycast, pops forward, you can enter anything into it and no problem. Raycast very quickly replaced that for me when I found it, and then that program became a little bit dead, and then I ended up using Tana. But it was never a short system, because it didn't have a project management side to it. It was just a nice way to view my calendar.
Yeah.
There's like elements that I want to take from that and like stick it in Tana, and there's elements that I want to take from Tana and like stick it onto Raycast, and just
I want to ask a question.
Sure.
Before a pre-question, David, do you know much about Raycast? Do you use it at all?
I know absolutely nothing about Raycast. I've been trying to Google it the whole time you all been talking.
I'm so sorry, man.
No, it's quite all right. Lisa, give me a 30-second overview of what Raycast is. It sounds like it's a Finder on steroids or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Have you ever used Alfred?
No, I have not used Alfred either.
Okay.
Spotlight.
So
You've used Spotlight on your computer.
Oh yeah, Spotlight. Oh sure.
It's that steroids.
Okay. Fair enough.
Flippy
fair
but
enough.
useful.
I'm getting it quick. I just hadn't heard it.
Yeah.
And I never certainly didn't hear about it. The integration, that seems absolutely fascinating between the two.
it's a hack.
But Lisa brings up a great point. Is this whole idea you have sort of have these multi-channels trying to get into this like this funnel of data from different and trying to get it all to one point. That's always seems a little tricky, you know? You get it, like you said, you get a chat, you get an email, you get a WhatsApp, and you know, you're just trying to always put in a funnel to get to something you can then later use. And maybe that's never going to be super smooth. Maybe that's always a hack. I don't know.
Well, and maybe so. It definitely has the potential to I mean, as soon as they have an input AI or API that lets me use Zapier or Make or N8N, and you can just connect all the dots that way and just have it go in, that's going to make it a lot easier. The problem with creating the hack that I've created is that everybody has a completely different workflow in Tana. There's no standard, you know, there's no, you really can't say this is the workflow you should be using. I was scared to put the transcript field when I said, you know, I want to add transcripts into this because people might have transcript with a lowercase t, or they might call it something like it's so customizable that it's very hard to make a global solution that's going to work without breaking somebody else's workflow or making them use yours, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, its biggest strength is also its biggest weakness.
I'm an old IT guy. It must be a nightmare to support Tana. Like they're so good and they're so wonderful. And I love the community. I tell them all the time, the community at Tana is a feature of the product, but I don't know how they're managing the support because everybody has a different use case every single time they talk. And you're like, oh geez, how do you solve for this? But anyway, that's a big existential question that isn't for this purpose.
That really speaks to what I love about Tana from my perspective as a UX and product designer is the utter flexibility, but also like problems everywhere to solve for. And I think you and I we're trying to solve problems that, I don't know about you, but I think that like 30 to 40% of the problems I'm trying to solve, I imagine Tana is going to solve themselves at some point in the future, but there's going to be no shortage of other problems to solve as they solve those things. So I'm not worried about that. Yeah, but
it's like an infinite database.
Yeah,
right.
There's no limit really.
Exactly. Which makes it fun and very time consuming. And I'm going to have to watch myself because I like to tinker. And it can be very procrastination driven. And I just have to be really careful. So
it's I actually found that, interestingly enough, with all the tinkering, I've refined my process to a certain point that in the last month or so, since I released my template for the project dashboards, my own personal like workflow hasn't really changed too much from setting that all up. The little things of like, what's an actual action doing versus a task has changed and things like that, but the actual how I view my my projects now is very consistent across everything that I'm doing. And it took me to like kind of release something to be like, oh, I'm actually happy with this and it's working for me and it makes sense and it has everything that my Notion had, but it's doing it better and a little bit less stressful and a bit more stressless. Like I've said to Nick before, like my main issue was never knew where to put anything in Notion, even though I had a place to put everything. It was like, it's just crazy. And then you just lost notes that were just lost to time and buried somewhere. And this just brings everything into it, which is quite nice. But there was one thought that I was as we were discussing the Raycast, and that was as soon as they do a clip, just talking about it. As soon as they do their own clipper, like Tana, it's not going to matter. Because as soon as I saw Andre doing something in that video that they released the other week, and he takes a screenshot and it goes into Tana. I'm like,
That's Inbox AI.
I was like, I was like, that I want it. And I
He's
want
my
it
hero.
now.
Andre, if you're listening, I want to be your best friend.
Do you use it?
I bought it. I'm like, just take my money. I don't have time to play with it yet, but I want
I'm
it.
on the edge. I'm on the edge. I really do just, but like, I feel like they're going to release something soon, and that's going to account for this kind of thing. But like, Magic, yes, mate, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Like, if you're listening, legend. Like,
I just it felt like it was the way I could pay him for all of the, the stuff that he's done anyway. Like, just because he has a great template too, Orbital. It was great from a brand new user perspective. He and I have almost exactly the same workflow. It's all meetings and to-dos all the time. You delegate, you follow up, you have meetings. So it was so great for me to have something. And I think that's the key to templates.
I started with his.
Yeah.
Next, somebody else's, EVs. I downloaded everybody's.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Lucas. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's. Just because, like, forgive the language, trying to work out how to get it all started. Like, it was mind-boggling 6 months ago when I first picked it all up.
Yeah.
More now, almost a year. Wow.
Yeah, I started the day they launched. So
in January.
I dove in hard. Like it's the only thing I do in my free time. I don't have much free time, but when I have it, I use it for this. But yeah, I have Slack open just to that channel. I'm like, okay, well, we'll just talk about Tana.
yeah. It's recently spread out because I've now got Nick on another separate one. But yeah, it's starting to kind of become very like Slack is very Tana focused and a little bit of clients, whereas before it was the other way around.
This is the concern.
Yeah.
This is the concern. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, with all the little things that I am doing, it's speeding my life up, and I actually find that I've got more time to do Tana things, weirdly enough. Like, I don't know if that's a massive plug for Tana, but like, because of the way I'm effortlessly able to put things in, and because I understand the graph of my own system, it's interesting. So my job when I was working in companies was I was working in marketing agencies as what is known as an art worker, which is somebody who basically does what a web development would do, but for print. So I would prepare all the files for retail, print production, launch campaigns, events, everything. So it's kind of technical, kind of a little bit of everything. But the level that you have to go to with understanding, like keeping track of
the connections. Yeah.
So interestingly enough, the point I was making through all of this, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit now, was completely just gone blank. That's embarrassing.
Well, can I talk about workflows? Can I throw something?
Yeah, please do. Not my dead silence.
So, the same sort of thing you guys are saying, building on Orbital and that basic workflows and stuff. But my challenge in Tana has been what I call task dependencies. So I need Simon and Lisa to help me do a project, but tomorrow Simon calls in sick. Well, all them out staring at that to do isn't going to do anything. That project's effectively put itself on hold until Simon comes back to the office. Or if I'm waiting for shipment, that I get a notification that shipment's been delayed a week. As much as I want to complete that project's put itself on hold. So I spend a great deal of my day. I'm a manager of an island, actually. But I spend almost like this miniature logistic guy trying to figure out, do I have the resources that I need? So I plan a project that's going to start a month from now. But when that date arrives, something isn't here, some key component that isn't here. So now that whole thing is in scramble mode. And so I just wonder, because I've been watching some of Nick's emails and even his perpetual template that he's coming out that hopefully he plugs at some point during this. Is there a way to somehow merge AI in some of these project dependencies where AI would say, well, wait a minute, one of the things you needed was Lisa. Lisa's no longer available. So we need to rethink your calendar for today. I mean, you might have started the day with one idea, but that's out the window. I mean, it's literally out the window. And maybe it's delayed hours, days, weeks, months. If something doesn't get on a supply ship, I'm guaranteed it will be at least 2 more weeks before the next supply ship is here. So I spend a lot of time now trying to get all those pieces realigned. And I'm just wondering if there's some tool that could be made that would help me just drag that whole project to the future. And then also check to see if the resources are available in the future. Because now Simon's available tomorrow. That's great. But Lisa's starting a new project tomorrow. So I picked one resource up, but I lost one resource. So I still can't do the project tomorrow, even though Simon's back to work. So you can only do the project when you have all the pieces you need on the puzzle board. And then you can move the project forward. I hope that it didn't overly complicate it or that makes any sense. You guys, if you want to shoot yourself right now, I completely understand. But
but I'm working out in my head to do that. But it would be a complex matrix of commands, realigning things, and making sure there's no dependency in next one. And it would be. I've tried these things before because I did it as well, where they had dependencies and things. And there's an option where they nest where it's like private next or something. So you can see if it's the next time, but whether or not you can like set commands, set up, change the date, and have that. What you could actually do is yes, leave it available with a Boolean and available with Boolean, etc.
Hold on, the echoes are getting too much. Dave, can you?
Sorry, it was putting me up as well. The way I would see that is like you'd have a bit of a matrix of commands, and feel free to jump in, guys, whenever you see something that doesn't sound right. But you'd have a matrix of commands. You'd have a field which would effectively be next task or dependent on. That would all cascade down. You'd have to have effectively a task or a command, that would search that field to see if there is something there or not. If there is, change the date. If there is, change the date. Like there could be a very much so node filters all set up. Like it would get complicated, but you could do it. Like it's not impossible. I've done something before in Tana. I'm not the type of person to keep that level of like checking on everything to the point where I actually don't have dates on my stuff. Really, I don't really set them. I just say when the project's going to be done by and work towards that, and then pull my hair up out of the last week. But it's I find managing it's a very different situation for you. You need to see if something's available, not available. You can have booleans to do that, to take it on and off. You could go into a project, for example, and have a whole resources tag, and the things will just pop in there if they're available for you. And then you can see from a top level. There's ways to do that kind of stuff, if that's what you're referring to.
Well, sort of. I mean, I actually have a huge amount. My project list is over 100 projects, but at any given time, I call it in focus. There's only 5 in focus for whatever reason, And so I spend a lot of my day kind of just dragging stuff in focus and out of focus instead of actually working, which is another form of procrastination. I don't mean to be procrastinating, but that's what it turns out to be. And then I think I'll get one email that boat, because of weather's been delayed 7 days. Well, that one thing just may have changed 20 potential projects that can no longer get moved forward. So I don't want to spend a lot of energy on stuff that I can't do. I have enough time spending energy on stuff I can do. So, it's like, it's just a waste of brain cells to be trying to juggle that. And I know it maybe is a very complicated problem. But it sure would be a useful problem to solve, because I can't be the only one that has, like at my job, a combination of doing things, delegating things, managing resources. And now you got to get the intersection of all those things to really be effective. Otherwise, stuff slips through the cracks. It just does. Or like you just said a minute ago, Simon, I get caught with my pants down. The due date's here and I go, oh shit, I forgot to order the cement. I forgot to order the wood. I forgot to make sure a plumber is available. I put 90% of it together, but unless the 100%'s there, the project can't get done. or it gets very expensive because, so I don't want to be deadline driven because I don't have the ability to go to a local Home Depot or Walmart or whatever. I've got to plan things weeks in advance. So if I wait for the due date, that's too late. Or the day before the due date, that's too late. So how do I have a kind of this project tickler file that comes up and says, hey, things are coming up. Are all these stars aligned? Yes, great. If not, now go into scramble mode to see, what I can do to, handle that.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Absolutely.
So before you started using Tana, did you have a solution that did this for you?
So I used OmniFocus for a long time, and
Yeah.
there are sequential tasks, but that doesn't. The sequential task and dependencies really are not the same thing at
It's not
all.
the same.
I kind of convinced myself that they were, but they're not. And then I realized you really need different pieces coming together to advance something, not just so. It was way better than what I was doing, which was frankly a Google spreadsheet, a Google Excel suite. That did amazingly well, and so did paper and pens. But as the projects increased and the time and the projects that were only a couple days away were easier to manage for some reason. But that stuff that was like right now, before I get on this call, I have a new building that's going to go up. So just today, I talked to the guy to pour the concrete. I got to find out where the steel is. I got to find an erector to put the steel up, but I can't get him to commit until I know when the steel is going to be shipped. But I can't do that until I know when the next boat's going to be up. So I'm like, whoa, is it happy hour yet? Because I've had enough. So I'm just figuring out, it's Tana on steroids or project manager on steroids. But I also can't help but wonder if somehow AI doesn't fit into this, where AI says, oh, wait a minute, something. You said you needed these 4 resources to do this job. Now you just told me that one of these resources wasn't available, and I see that project's coming up next week. So, hey, buddy, even if it can't solve the problem, alert you to it and say, you may want to look at this project because this might be in trouble. And maybe it is or maybe it isn't, and then I can manually move stuff around. But could you almost have an alert system like I'm not projecting you to have the resources you need to move this forward on this date. That's what I envision. That might be Star Wars. I don't know.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's absolutely not. With the agents, that's exactly what you're talking about. And I bet you're about to probably say the same thing. So I'll let you kind of say what you wanted to say.
Well, so I'll let you talk about the agents, but my first thought was, you want to make sure that the data is there. So that would be my first recommendation. So you need to have some sort of like blocked by or blocking or both fields so that you can connect those dots to each other. And then the other thing that I think is probably going to be a constraint that is likely temporary, but is still one right now, the context in which you are going to need to pull all of those elements in for the AI to evaluate is going to chew up your tokens really fast. It's not unlimited, right? So if you have a database of all of these resources and all of these, like every node is a new thing that it needs to look at, you can put them all in the context, but it needs to read them and process them and then give you something that's been intelligently, recommended. I don't know if Tana, and I would obviously want to test this to see what kind of, what kind of dent it would put in your monthly AI use. But I think that it probably, for what you're doing, I'm not sure AI is the right answer for like broadly, but I love where Simon was going, where you could take individual agents that did different things, created kind of focused context specifically, and then have it read that. So it's not doing the whole thing.
Yeah, there's also, but there's also the fact that, the thing that's shooting out into my head is like related content fields. Like you've got these related content panels at the side, which are putting in your searches. If you know that Lisa's available and it's a Boolean and she's contacted you on a Monday and said, I'm available, tick. So you go to Lisa, tick, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, that means that this project might be ready to go. You click in the project, you can see Lisa's available. You can now also see that Andy's available, Nick's available, and David's available. Perfect, let's go. You could probably do the same for resources. I have my own system at the moment where I've got task templates all set up, but it's not really a task template. It's a list of deliverable items that I have to design for events or for social media. So I don't have to go searching for the same 1200 by 627 image that, you know, is going to have the same template for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Thingy. Now I've just got a template there that I can pull in, double check that that's the right size for the clients, and away we go. But the point remains the same. It's all of that pulls in that's related to my project type. So if your project or whatever it is has certain dependencies, which are people, then you could have all of those things linked through. It just depends on how you manage those search queries. And you might find that, okay, I've got all these people here. Now I need to have a filter. So the filter is going to have to be on the person level. Is active or not active? Is busy, not busy? Tick off or tick on? However you choose to set that status is up to you. It could be as simple as a checkbox. It could be as not right now, busy doing other things, booked for, you know, pending, you know, however you choose to refer to the status of that person. But it's not impossible what you're talking about within Tana. It's just you're going to have a very good knowledge of what you want to see as the final result, and then start building all the libraries.
Would it be less AI driven or resource driven if you just, for instance, if I needed Lisa, Simon, and a saw, and I knew that the saw wasn't going to be here for 2 weeks? I mean, ideally, I like that kind of project just put off to the side, and then when that date tickles up, okay, I've got the saw. Now, do I have Simon and Lisa? Can I move that forward? Because if I get another notice, the saw's moved back another week, change that one field to that's the expected resources available on a certain date. I'm not seeing a lot of computing power to say, hey, that date hasn't even come up yet, so why even look at it? You know, it's like a series of ticklers, and then when they all, you know, then just to try to bring stuff into focus where you could then take a deeper look at it and then make a manual decision how you want to treat that. I don't know. I mean,
you wouldn't need AI because you could have a today page with resources available, people available, and projects. And however you choose to manage that project or move it to the side, stick it to review. I have a thing where it's like review, and it just takes the project out of my queue. And then if it's come back from review and it's got feedback, it goes into next. It's not in my now. My now is what I'm dealing with, like in my day or whatever it is. So I have a today page, it's got my active stuff on it, it's got my active tasks on there. If I want to go digging through other things to find stuff that I haven't, you know, that's cropped up that I forgot about or I know should be there, I can go back finding stuff. But it rarely happens that I can't find something on my today page. But what you're talking about, you don't need an AI search for it. If you've got that database and you've got people ticked on and off and things like that, you can go, okay, I can see Lisa, Nick, and Simon are all available today because they're all popped up on there. They're my key players for most projects. What can I get accomplished today? These are all the resources that I've got, because you'll have a timeline on each resource. So if the saw is available in 2 weeks, you'll have from 2 weeks from today, with like April the 30th or whatever it is, till whenever. So that saw won't show up on your today page until that day is available. So you wouldn't need the AI.
Commands, could you take the project and just move the entire project up to April 30th and an example you just used? If all of a sudden the saw is not available to April 30th, could I tickle that whole project? So that's the other challenge I have is it's sort of easy to move tasks from one date to another date, but I haven't figured out how to take, if there's 10 tasks in a project, how do you move all of those up to that same date?
Because that's what I'm struggling with at the moment. Is for me personally, this is why Tana fails at me planning dates and times around heavily working through things on my personal stuff. For other people, it's completely different. For my personal thing, I can't easily shift entire dates around from a whole range of tasks, and I might have 20 or 30 deliverable items per thing. Like, it gets complicated to have to go through and rewire every single item. I just want to know this is available to do on this day. Great. I've stopped putting dates on the project. So the project goes on from A to B. That might be a few months. The deliverables are required by that point if it has a date that I need to be reminded of. Otherwise, the tasks just cycle around. In your case, you're actually working with dates. So the difference is that you would have specific things being available on those days. I mean, the way I would see it is I would just be having everything on your today page, list of resources available. It depends on how big that list is, really, to be honest. If you have like a list of like 30 things that are available all the time, you don't want to like clutter yourself with it. But if it's like, if you're talking 5 or 6 items,
Well,
you want something
you
to serve
have a
it.
very similar problem. If you got
Yeah,
10 projects with 10 items or 5 tasks each, why are you looking at 40 to-dos that you cannot do? And that's how actually, and me, that's how stuff starts falling through the cracks, because I stare at it so long I don't see it anymore. It's like once I've made a decision that project can't be worked on, anything's related to that should just be put out of my brain for now. Let me have my brain focus on something I can work on. And then resurface all the tasks that are associated with it. Because my problem is my task list, you couldn't put it on one page. Sometimes it's 7, 8, 9 pages, but 90% of it I can't do anything with. So I spend the whole day sort of scrolling through this list, kind of like the orbital theory, though, where you take that task and then drag it over and say, okay, these are the 3 or 4 things I want to do with. I kind of want to take orbital, but do it on a project level and not a task level. And then anything that gets dragged to project to do, great. Now give me all the stuff that's in part of that project. Give me the resources, give me the documents, give me the other reference material. But once that becomes kind of cold, move all that off your radar, so it doesn't become overwhelming, because that's when I just sort of have a meltdown and just want to, like I said, look for when time happy hour starts.
I have
There's-
a working on like drop down on my homepage that I can switch, because I work for a company part of the time, and then I have my own company part of the time. And I want to be able to only show what is related to those things. Similarly to you, I don't want to see if I'm not in my job, I don't want to see any of my job tasks. But I also don't want to have 2 different workspaces, because everything, right? So you hear me. So what I have is I have a little drop down where I say working on, and then all of my related items in the sidebar or at the bottom are actually contextual to that. I call it's an organization field. And then, so when I change the working on, my related tasks only shows those. So any task that's related to the organization. Now it means that I have to relate all of the tasks that I'm working on to that organization, but I have commands for that make it easier. But you could do something like that, but make it by project, right? So you could have a drop down where all of your open projects are there, and then you can pick, and then it would change all of your resources in your related items so that it would come up really quick. It's not that much different than having a page for the project and having the related items, but you could probably make it a little bit more powerful. Like you could have resources. I'd have to think about it, I'd have to map it out, but there may be a way to do that, and it's all with node filters, right? So you only display things based on what's going on. And then there's some object stuff in there too, the object notation, where you can say it's pulling from this field. But you're talking about dependency management.
Yeah,
Such a big,
it's a big thing, but maybe I take the baby steps. The baby steps were, like I said, I almost saw that orbital, if it was project-based instead of task-based, how really that would get me so much further than I am right now. You can work on the stuff you can work on, and everything else kind of keep off the side. So you start your day going, okay, what do I think I can work on? Great. Then bring everything associated with it. There's no sense having all these literally like contracts and specifications and all this reference material and that I can't do anything with right now. But tomorrow that might be completely relevant to what I'm working on. So I just feel overwhelmed because I'm just looking at, talk about, I think Simon said earlier, you gotta have the data. I got too much data and it's overwhelming me. I mean, it really is overwhelming me. I used to have a full head of hair just like a week ago, but I want to get back to looking like Nick, but so whatever he's doing, that's working. But you know, I've seen some of the, I know AI is really sexy. Just put AI attach of anything, you know, and that's sexy. I get that's not the solution to all of life's problems, but it would be kind of nice. I looked at it almost as my personal assistant to look through my stuff and say, okay, you know, you pick what you want to work on and I'll tell you if that's doable or not, you know, and I'll even, or maybe can spot the possible problems. Yeah, that might start sucking up a lot of power to do that. So, but maybe there's some steps in between that get me closer without being on the bleeding edge. You know, they could still make me 10% more efficient, would be hell of a great day. You know, that would be great. If I can get out of work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 9 o'clock.
So pause a second on that note, because I'll try and share my screen because I've just done something else in my archive that might kind of start conversation. As I said, the template whore. I grabbed everything at one point or another, but one of the things I did find was this, which is find leave tasks without subtasks, okay? And what this is doing is updating the parent task. So it's looking for the children inside the parent task field, and then it's ticking it to say it's got subtasks or doesn't have subtasks, okay? Which means it will show up in a filter if it has children tasks but underneath it. So applying this to what you're talking about, look for all these dependencies within here. Is Lisa available? Yes or no? Yes, she's available. Do you have all these things to do what you need to do in this project? Yes, you do. Yet no, you don't. You'd have to have, as I said, these things would have to be a bit of a matrix in terms of your search query, but it's not impossible to do what you're talking about. There's mechanisms within Tana that will allow you to do this. Look for the children in field. And because you're talking about the dependencies and you're setting them up, if you set them up in fields that way, you can reference them in this way and therefore have no filters that exclude it or include it. If this is there, then great. If it's not, show it in this field. So you could have a project technically show up if all the things align up, but you just have to know very clearly what you're asking, what you're going to be asking for. I think that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, no, that's. By the way, Nick, when you see Dave Renault in your inbox, I sent you an email about 20 minutes beforehand. I didn't realize it was so close. Hey, let's get together when you get a chance. So I'm the David that's in your inbox. I'm in two places at once right now. Talk about being everywhere and nowhere. That's me.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I will look forward to reading that email. I just want to take a real quick pause and say a couple things. One is the problems that you're dealing with dependencies of not just tasks, not just time, but people and things, and all of them interacting with each other. This is such a thorny problem. There's no software that does a good job of handling that at all. And just the fact that us here talking it through have spitballed just in these last 15 minutes, like, well, you could set things up this way and this way inside Tana. I think that just speaks to how amazing Tana is. And I think that if any piece of software is going to be the central aspect that leads to some kind of really meaningful solution in that area, it's going to have something to do with Tana, you know? Another thing is, speaking of AI, and I think we both seem to be talking in kind of the same direction of, like, we're all very, I would say, techno-optimistic. Like, we love technology, we love AI. At the same time, it's like, guys, AI can't do everything. And it serves different roles. Simon and I have talked a lot about it solving the cold start problem. That's one of them. I think there's a few others. It can accelerate you if you already have a great foundation in data and how things are connected, and you can just ramp up. It can also slow you down when appropriate if you use it right. It can give you warning signs like, hey, these dependencies aren't fulfilled, you know? It can also remove distractions. So those are the four that I've come up with so far. I imagine there's others, but I think that one rule that I'm cautiously implementing is, like, if you're building AI to do something, any individual agent should probably focus on just like one of those, you know? That's my tentative rule, a guideline that I'm putting for myself.
It's funny you made that comment, Nick, about the core product, because I was just about to say, is this even the right path, Tana? Does this product have the potential to get me closer to that? Is there some other thing out there? But you actually anticipated my very next question.
I think it totally does have it. I don't think you're going to get the solution from like, you're not going to be able to do it all yourself, and it's not all going to come from like one builder or anything like that. But I imagine, like you mentioned my PKM template, and so I will plug that and Tasker, which I'm working on the pro versions now. And I will say that I think that those could play a large role in like solving maybe 20% of your problem, you know, for instance. But then, you know, something that Lisa builds that would fill in some gaps or bring in external resources, or who knows. And, you know, Simon is really focusing on kind of more of the project level aspect of things. And then you bring in a couple more templates from other builders, whether it's like Ev or Lucas or Andre or who knows what people we haven't even heard of yet. I believe that you will be able to find your solution, and probably in the next 18 months. And this is something that in my entire career, working as a product person, as an entrepreneur, like this has been one of the biggest unsolvable problems. And I think it could be solvable in the next year and a half, more or less.
I didn't realize as many people have the same pain as I do. So that's good to hear. I'm in good company.
They've tried to solve
go
this
ahead.
slightly. Sorry, I even just Notion, it was a huge pain point for people with Notion, and that was sequential tasks, right? Where it was like trying to figuring out the task management with blockers and block by. That was a huge win, but the only time I've ever seen all of these elements that you're talking about in one piece of software is Microsoft Project, where like if you're an IT on like enterprise guy who's managing, you know, they've done all of the training, the manual is like this thick, and you know they're dealing with all of these multiple projects and resources at an enterprise level. And I'm going back some years, I don't even know if they, you know, you could probably take a look and see how they manage dependencies and just get a handle on the database design, and then see how to recreate that inside of Tana. Because like I said, it really is, it's the elements, it's the things, right? Like what are the super tags that you want? And then try to connect those dots. I don't recommend using preemptively, but you might be able to at least see how that was solved for like that old school waterfall project management, resource management thing, and then simplify it for your use case. Right? Because nobody ever used it properly. It's like using Salesforce. Like nobody uses Salesforce at 100%. Nobody ever used Project at 100%. Take it out and say, okay, what are the elements that are most important to me? So you're talking resource, but then resource is actually person, thing, time block, right? Like you can have those. And then I don't know, I haven't been able to wrap my head around the whole semantic setup yet, where, yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen where there's the semantic functions in Tana. You may be able to use some of that as well if you design your database properly, so that there's like parents and children.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's one of the things by the way, I'm not a tech guy. I want to be the user of the tech. I want to take it. I want to stand on everybody's shoulders and make something. I don't want to get in the nitty gritty. I don't want to learn how to build commands. I want to. That's what checkbooks are for. I want to pay somebody to do that. That's why God invented a checkbook. I'm convinced of it. But you know, it's funny to talk about dependencies. You know, we run several fishing tournaments a year. So I try to set up where like there's a fishing tournament for 2025, and there was one for 24 and 23. But I'd love to be able to pull in the notes from the previous fishing tournaments to help me plan my future fishing tournaments. And so far, they're like in these little individual boxes, which means I'm on this treasure hunt. You know, if I'm going to host a wedding, I don't want to look through. I should be able to have an easy way to grab all the previous weddings that I've done and look through those notes together and find, or if I want to look at menus, or let's look at all the menus that people were happy with in the past. And that's to me where I thought maybe semantic functions in, if it's, pull everything in that's tagged fishing tournament or whatever, and look at the notes, look at the the whatever, and to try to, one of the promises of note taking that I have never been able to realize is how do you reuse notes? That has been the most overpromised thing to me ever in this whole space, is that somehow I could actually learn something from something I already learned. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So I just knock my head against the same wall every day. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to take advantage of stuff that whether I had a good experience or bad experience. Oh yeah, that worked really good. Oh yeah, we don't want to do that again. But when things happen, literally on an annual basis, but right now, for instance, we're planning an Easter service. I don't remember what the pastor was last Easter, what the menu was last Easter, but I should be able to grab that pretty quick. I would think if it was in a properly structured database in Tana, and look at those pieces, and like I said, the notes, the contracts, the menus, the whatever, and then plan the 2026 Easter based on all the previous Easters I've ever hosted. But I haven't been able to do that yet. And I just know that's available. I mean, I should be able to suck that back out of a database and use stuff that I've already done, because otherwise I'm the classic definition of an idiot, just keep doing the same thing over and over. So I want to be one step up from an idiot. I don't even have high aspirations. If I could just be one foot out that door, I'd be happy.
So you definitely can do what you're referring to, because everybody has related content. Well, not everybody, but you can have a related content field down the side of whatever topic you're taking. Like if you've got fishing trip, I have project types. So I've got website projects, I've got logo designs, I've got events. I can go on to a proposal now, and I can pull in every type of event-based deliverable that I have created for previous projects, and I can make a duplicate of that now for anything going forward. I could also go to my garden for my snake plant and look at plant type and look at all the notes associated to plant types. So I can now go to my snake plant and realize that I screwed up the other one because I overwatered it and then messed around with it too much because it was my first one I ever did, and then what I was doing with it. And this one I probably didn't water enough. So it's like there's two little things there. But the point is that I could see all the notes on my on the plant type. So yeah, you can. It's just a matter of how you structure it. My understanding of semantic and the way that that's all working is I use it for anything that like when it says part of, it's like it belongs to this now. So if I am assigning that this task is linked to this item in this field, but this field is a semantic function, that means, from my understanding, that is a parent now of that item. So that field is acting now as the parent item for that node. That's my understanding of it. So that way you can put in components rack, and then that way it's a matrix that you can include them.
Yeah, my limited understanding is very similar. I was kind of envisioning, kind of combining what you both said, is that the type of event is fishing tournament. So the fishing tournament's part of events. So I should be able to query events and then query fishing tournaments within events, and then maybe notes that are attached to those things. That's how I saw those all sort of linking together. Ironically, Lisa mentioned Rome. A query like that seemed straightforward, more straightforward. Is that right? English? I don't know. But it seemed, I could picture that easier than I could picture it in Tana for some reason. But it really just, it is kind of a query to just, this is an event, which is part of fishing tournaments type of event, and then grab me all the previous fishing tournaments kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are kind of saying the same thing. And that's, you'd agree then that is perfectly doable. Yeah. Okay.
I do the exact thing for my plant types, so that I know that, if there's a problem with that one, I go to it and I have a little look through and say, okay, this one needs, chopping don't chop the black edges off them, do this with it instead, or whatever it was. I can't remember now exactly how it happened with my nose, but that's what they're there for. So the point remains the same, is that, yeah, you can very much do what you're doing. I use that mechanism in lots of different ways. As I said, I use it for the templates. I also use it for the notes. I also use it for there's a new one that I was building recently. It's like how to learn Hebrew. So now I've got common mistakes. So like now I built a library of that, and that's linking through to something else. Like there's ways to do all these different things that you are talking about. It just requires a little bit of thought and understanding how the search queries work to know what you actually want to target, and then when in doubt, throw a field on there and connect it up. It's like kind of thing it's been starting to do recently. So when in doubt, I'll just stick another field in there, link it up somewhere, and oh look, it's there, magic, it works. I'm happy now. Let's carry on.
I've got one final thing. I know we're running low on time. I just want to get your read on. I've tried messing with multiple workspaces, and boy, that's a nightmare for me. I wanted a workspace and a personal workspace and a this and a that, and then everything goes to this inbox, and I can't find it because it went off to over here, and I got to move it from this. You all do multiple workspaces or just one big workspace? Because boy, I've not had any success with multiple workspaces.
No,
I can actually see like a test or play workspace and like a real world workspace. That might be the only two workspaces. But to kind of separate my life, and I see people doing a medical workspace, a workout workspace. This is getting crazy. I mean, I think it's getting crazy. To me, storage is so cheap and everything else. Why would you just not kind of put all your data in one place? And you never know when you're going to want to share that data or have it interconnected. So why would you put these barriers in between stuff? But I want to see what you guys are pros, not me. I'm at kindergarten level. What's your thoughts on multiple versus single or minimal?
I only use one. I did this with Rome too, where I don't separate my concerns. I'm new enough that is not affecting performance yet. So I've heard that, like somebody like Andre, he needs to clean up because he uses it so consistently and there's so much stuff in there. Eventually it gets slow, and then he archives every year. The trick with the archiving every year is that if it's not in your library and you're archiving your day tags or your day pages, then things go that you might have needed. So I think that I'm perfectly comfortable right now in the state that I'm in. I don't have any performance issues, and I'm going to stay in one until I can't, and then I'll figure it out. I'm not overthinking it.
So
Fair point.
I don't know where Nick's up to in terms of his count, but I know I'm on 800,000 nodes or something, and I haven't really noticed much of a performance lag. Nick and I have been building, so I have a separate workspace entirely just for the build, because otherwise things get very complicated very quick, and I learned that very quickly. I wanted to start off with multiple workspaces with work and personal. As everybody else does, you very quickly learn it becomes very hard to manage it that way with all the different links going up. I've thought about ways of doing it, and there probably are ways to do it, and your tags need to be completely different to one another in order to be able to have that work. It's too much of a headache right now. When they work it all out, then that's when it'll be time to play around with multiple workspaces. But now I have a playground, as you said, and that's where stuff goes to die and gets messed up. And I have the dedicated workspace for build, and then I've got my own personal thing which has got everything in there, including work and dump ground and everything else in between. So I haven't really noticed that I have to clean up, but I'm also not I'm a designer, I'm not a heavy note taker. It's very bullet point action related content for me, and I'm having Tana do a lot of things or at least trying to, not really succeeding massively right now, but have it auto generate my task lists or task lists for the deliverables effectively. That's my next big hurdle for my own personal system. It's okay, I want a structured way of doing this. I wanted to generate a task list for me, but I wanted to do it within the context of what is in the proposal that I created for it, and all these different things. I'm trying to build a bit of a workflow in regards to that, and then that's something that I'll put out to the public as well at another point. But for now, it's a complete experiment. How much can Tana infuse my workflow? in the best way possible, or elevate the workflow in the best way possible. Because I don't, as you said, I don't want to be moving things around all day and shifting stuff. I want to be doing the creative, fun, like, let's do this. I'm the concept guy. Let's go off and do that. I barely even want to do the design sometimes. I want to hit a button that I do it because I've worked it all out in my head already. And once I've done that, it's not fun for me. Like, once I've worked out the solution to the problem, it doesn't matter designing it. It's not fun for me. So I move on. I want to move on to the next thing. But I'm also a perfectionist, so I have to finish it. So that's the other side of it. But that's a whole different scenario. I think it's like there's a place for AI, and it's doing things like what you're talking about, the standard like stuff that I don't want to have to repeat every single day on a day-to-day, and the cold start stuff that Nick and I have been speaking about as well. I want to do the creative stuff. I still want to be the decision maker. I still want to be the guy that puts the cherry on the cake and sends it to the customer. That's my flavor. That's what I'm bringing to the table. So yeah, I think it depends on what level you want it to help you.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what they've said. Like, since I'm a builder, I have multiple workspaces and multiple accounts so that I can test all the different experiences and keep things completely separate. Because when you're building a template, you have to have a separate environment. Otherwise, things bleed over in both directions. But if it were just me for myself, I would definitely just use one workspace. And you can every template that you install, you can just put them all under one node. I call it in mine, it's called the stable, because that's my stable environment that I bring stuff in from. You could have that as a separate workspace and share, but why not just keep it in the same workspace? And then that limits things like sometimes they'll act in a separate workspace, they create a separate day node, and then you don't realize that you're looking at the wrong day node, even though it looks like there's only one that's shared across. No, it's different in each workspace. There's also, like, the workspaces are not a mature environment for restricting versus sharing versus editing versus reading and writing. They're not there yet. So it's even in like a team environment where you want to segregate your stuff from like the team stuff and from the client stuff, it does not work super well if you also want to let some things bleed over so that you can just have your own kind of workstation in your personal workspace so that you can keep track of things. You have to jump back and forth or just kind of share everything, which is neither of those are great solutions. So yeah, for now, and especially if you're just one person, one workspace, I would recommend.
Got it. Yeah, got it. All right. I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy because it's a headache. I've done that day node thing 1,000 times, just lost where I was, or I thought I was somewhere at the end and realized I wasn't. And then I'm tinkering with software instead of getting stuff done. It becomes a distraction.
Yeah,
This has been
I have a
big fun.
bias for simplicity. Whoa, go ahead.
No, I was going to say thank you very much for sharing your time and letting me jump in on all your stuff because I'm clearly I'm a newbie at this whole thing, so it's been fun to see you guys the way you're using Tana, and I've certainly been following Nick's work on YouTube and so forth, and X and his post on X and stuff. And like I said, it's fun. Well, not fun. It's different being sort of the end user. I'm just not the tinkerer. I'm the end user, and so to know what tools you have available and some of the where we are in Tana and where you see it going is really good because you want to hit your wagon to the right thing, right? I don't want to spend a ton of time learning something that's maybe a dead end product. And I saw my final comment, at least already touched, I jokingly say the rise and fall of Rome. I mean, when Rome came out, oh my God, people's heads exploded. And and now it's truly a 4-letter word. Now it's a 4-letter word to say Rome. I mean, oh, well, we don't do that anymore. It's like, so, I don't want to invest in a dead end technology or just something that got leapfrogged. I don't say it's dead end, but something kind of got it feels like it got leapfrogged.
It's like Rome and those. What's the other one? Readwise, is it? Are they both the same thing?
Logseek.
Logseek, that's it.
And Obsidian. Yeah, the three of them were kind of fighting for it.
Yeah, but they feel like first generation versions of what this is, and Notion also feels like not much of a step further forward than what actually Excel is. So when you look at it like that, it's basically just a fancy version of Excel when you look at what Notion is. And then there's a few other little things that kind of happen. I don't know, there's something about this, and there's still things that they need to work out, and there's still some UI stuff that they need to work out, and there's still other bits and pieces they need to work out. But it's got this much of a following with all of that they need to work out. So there must be something here that is really interesting. They've kind of come out as well with the swing, and I don't know, like I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I literally bounced around between like 6 different softwares before I stumbled across this, and it stuck. Like I tried capacities, I can't remember all the ones I tried Anytime, which is another one that's very much so like this. None of them clicked until this one. And the funny thing was, I suggested a plan to my brother, and he's a very difficult person. He's got ADHD, he's very difficult to please, but he literally bounced around like another 6 or 7 apps and then came back to it and was like, fine, yeah, let's work with this. So there's something there that's interesting.
Well, you know what? I don't know. I think maybe Nick talks to the Tana team. From an end user perspective, though, my biggest concern about the future Tana is a simpler onboarding process, which allows a mid-level manager to get involved with Tana and not have this huge learning curve. Like, again, I think one of the biggest strengths, also its biggest weaknesses. It's so customizable. It's so non-opinionated. I think that's where templates might really fill a gap, where you can kind of, hey, if I'm into gardening, grab a gardening template. If I'm into building houses, build a housing template. And then from there, sort of, because I got to tell you, it's absolutely overwhelming to get started. And I think that's going to be its biggest challenge. It's not the technology. It just becomes overwhelming. And somebody's going to go back and open a Google Doc and go, you know what, I'm going to go back to a Google Doc because the learning curve is just too steep for sort of a non-tech kind of person. I think that real users, that mid-level manager, or what, I don't know, I could be way wrong what their target user is, but it's got to be more than just technology enthusiast if Tana's going to be successful. There's got to be real world applications and real problems that it solves, not just novel problems, that businesses are using across so that's what I see. And like I said, I saw recently when they were talking about, doing more of the templates and template focus to make them easier to share. And that to me seems the bridge to getting people from, getting an account to actually using Tana and then exploring. Then once you get your feet wet, you can kind of explore with some of this other stuff. Kind of like Nick was saying, get a little bit from this builder and a little bit from that builder. But boy, that first leap it's the water's deep and cold. I can tell you that when you first get started with Tana.
This was my experience
Yeah.
too. I am a total nerd, so I dive right in and I can figure it out, no problem. But my experience is, and I posted about this in Slack, I'm like, does anybody have I want to share this with my friends and colleagues guide, because there's actually nothing worse than being excited about this and sharing it with my friends and having them say it's too much. I can't, because I know the value of it. I know what it could do for them, but I also understand that they're not necessarily going to spend the time to dive in and get there. So I was talking to Faye about this, actually. I'm like, can we do this? Are you okay with me going out and doing some user interviews for people who are brand new and just have them tell me what their experience is? The thing about Tana is that I had this moment where I got it. I have no idea how I got there. I have no idea the steps I took to make that happen. And I have other experience that would have, because I used Rome and I used all these other ones. How am I a beginner again? I don't know how to be a beginner anymore. I don't know how to explain it to people. I love that Andre put the onboarding video up this week. He shares it with his colleagues. So that's cool. That's what I'm hoping we have more of, but it's pretty nerdy. I couldn't share that with some of the people I work with. So anyway, I'm with you 100%. I agree completely. If it's a tech person or a nerd, we're in. We get it. Yep. I'll figure it out. Yes, I know it's hard, but that's fine. Everybody else is like, I have people I talk to who find Notion too complex. Compared to this, Notion is not complex, right? Like there's no way. So how do we talk to those people and get them really getting it and really the value that comes out of it quickly and simply and then let them scaffold, right? Have them start small enough to solve the problems that are the biggest for them, but in an easy way. And then once they know how to do that, what's the next step? Then once they know how to do that, what's the next step? Too much of the conversation is, look at this amazing, cool system I created that took me 6 months.
Yeah, we need Tana
99% of the people I talk to aren't going to come.
We need Tana for non-nerds. That's going to be
Great,
my next book.
So I actually pitched that to Faye. I'm like, can I create a Tana for normies guide? Would that be okay with you guys? Like completely unrelated. They're great. They're like, yeah, community involvement, by all means, go ahead. So I'm going to start asking people some questions and see if there's, a group of us who want to just try to remember the beginner experience and then try to get that on board.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay, amazing. I don't want to repeat anything that other people have done,
No,
but
no.
I think you're right. I think it's a huge win. We got to get them.
You've just triggered some ideas from my side. Like, the only way really, like in my mind, just straight off the bat, is you have to walk them through it. Your first log into Tana, you have to build super types. You have to take them through that process. You have to do a few of them. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to show them how to build. You have to show them how to build templates. You have to take them through that onboarding.
Well, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. In QuickBooks, which is accounting software that we use in our company, you start with a blank database, but you get to pick. Are you into retail? Are you into wholesale? Are you into consulting? And it kind of suggests this whole framework. At least it gets you started. And then once you get in it, you say, oh, I need another asset account. I need another income account. I need another. Then you sort of customize it and tweak it. But you go from 0 to usable very quick. May not be perfect, but usable. My thing is, I'm really fearful a lot of people are going to give up before they get to that point, and that would be fatal for the product. I mean, QuickBooks became popular because you can have somebody with almost no accounting background be posting a check in minutes, and yet you can generate some extremely complex reports from it, that your accountant is thrilled with. So, and that's why I kind of see the templates, and maybe that's not the right tool, but that's the bridge, I think, to say, oh yeah, I am in this kind of, I run a hair salon. Click on the hair salon template and give me 10 super tags that have to do with hair salon. And well, I wouldn't use most of those, but I might use some of these. Okay, great. Now you're off to the races.
Yep. I think that it's a two-headed issue. I think that like Lisa and the team are addressing it from one end of educating users and getting them excited and understanding what is this and how do I use it from that bottom end perspective, I guess. And then also, well, at least I think is also attacking it from the other end, but I'm focusing more on the other end. And this is why like a year and a half ago, I decided I want to have a business around Tana because I was seeing this problem. It already existed. I knew it was going to get worse, but then I figured, I think it's going to get a lot better because we'll wrap around and we'll get to a point where people will be able to use Tana without even realizing they're using Tana, more or less. And that's where I want to be, is I'm building the things. And like templates is the current form, but I think it's going to transform, have several transformations so that people's first experiences, a lot of them are going to be using something that was built in Tana, but they don't even realize that it's Tana. Like they'll think they're using Tasker and I built it from scratch when really it's just a Tana template, that sort of thing.
So that was something I was about to say. I'll tell you when it clicked for me, and it's when I started to realize that the super tags that you're working with and the things that you're constructing are programs within a program. That Tana itself is just literally a framework, and you can go off and build programs that you want to build within that UI framework. So functionally, it's a program. It's doing its own thing. I have, same way that Nick has, a task program, a project management program, I have a resources program, I have programs that change statuses and do different functions. I have programs that manage my views. I have programs that run on my day page. It just depends on how you're like clicking with it. But for me, it started to click when I was like, and I think it was when I saw one of the guys do the Things 3 template in Tana. He did the to-do template for Things 3. He built it within Tana at one point. So functionally, it was
Things
operating like Things 3 is a to-do list application on the iPhone. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So functionally, this guy, I can't remember who it was one of the early guys from Tana last year when I started looking at it, but he built the Things 3 functionality on tasks and to-dos within Tana. So functionally, it was the Things 3 app, had all the same type of buttons and functionality and blah, 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 blah. But that's when it clicked. It's like you can build programs within the program. Oh, wow. And I think when you started showing me some stuff, Nick, it became a little bit more clearer to me, because it was like, oh wow, really? It doesn't have to be like a program within a it's lots of little programs within a program. That's when it started to like, I was able to spread things out a little bit further, and it became a bit more focused on what I was doing. Because then it became, how do I get this one little thing to work? And then, okay, now that's working. And well, how does this next one work? And slowly it built up in my knowledge.
We need to wrap up because I need to let the animals back in the office. But yeah, do we have any final thoughts or questions to ponder as we go through our work week?
Thank you so much for letting me say my 2 cents and hearing my questions and giving me some great stuff. So I appreciate you hosting this, guys, and your feedback has been great. I really appreciate it.
Likewise.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for saying hi, Nick. I'm going to make sure that I get to as many of these as I can.
Awesome. Cool. Simon, last words. You get the last words, Simon says.
No, just like thank you as well. Like I enjoyed this. This was a good chat. It's weekly geek session kind of thing. Weekly geek out. That's the one I was trying to say.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks everyone for joining, and until next time. Cheers.